Yes, sir, we can start now.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to the Registrar and the Vice Chancellor for setting the stage. What they said is so very relevant that in this times of crisis, the one thing that each one of us needs to be prepared to do is make the changes that are required to be made. And all of us today, in some manner, are being challenged by the scenario around us, and each one of us thereby not only needs to make a change themselves, but also ensure that they inspire people around them. So, with this backdrop, uh, I will, okay, yeah, so I was just seeing the chat. Let's start with the first topic, and that is something which is very close to my heart, and that is how do we develop leadership qualities in the younger generation. So while we always talk about leadership qualities in senior leadership, the fact of life is that everyone today, irrespective of the position that he is a leader in himself. In himself, each one of us needs to lead firstly ourselves, that is self-leadership, and we also need to be able to interact with people in a manner that we can influence them positively. So
Sir,
those, yeah.
sorry, sir, Mr. Deepak Chandar, if you are hearing me, please unmute yourself. Sir, voice is coming because he is unmuted and we are not able to mute him. Mr. Deepak Chandar, please mute yourself. No, sir.
You're seeing that he's not muted, is it?
Yes, sir, he is. We are also not able to mute, but the disturbance is coming.
Okay, I think he's left. He'll come back again.
Okay, okay, sir. Sorry, sir.
No issue, no issue. So, as I said, every one of us is a leader. Those days are gone where we said that people only after reaching a certain designation needs to show leadership qualities. So, with that backdrop, let me ask you a simple question. Do you believe that the people of today, I'm not being able to, have I got the presentation right now?
So your presentation is
Yeah, it's
visible,
fine.
sir.
Yeah, but I know it's not okay. Let me do it this way. Yeah, I'm done. Do we believe that the present college students and young professionals or the present generation is more intelligent than what we were? So that's a question to everybody. And whatever you feel, just write down in the chat box that as generations progress, from an IQ point of view, does it seem that the IQ is increasing? So just whatever you feel, you can put in the chat box. Do you agree with this? Do you disagree with this? You can just type it on the chat. Definitely, absolutely. So it's very difficult for generation like us to believe this, to agree to this. But the fact is, and I always see this happening, we always say our children are smarter than us. But when the same child comes as an employee to us in an organization, we say the present generation is not good enough. So, but the fact is, IQ levels are increasing. Having said that, the second question we need to think about is, does this younger generation needs to build behavioral skills or build their attitude and develop it in a more positive way? Indeed, right? So the fact is very simple. While people's IQ is increasing, emotional intelligence, or what would we call behavioral skills and soft skills, is something that the present generation needs to develop and get better at. Now, by and large, the education that we are providing this younger generation is focusing on areas that are tapping into that strong IQ that they have. And what we are trying to teach them is functional and technical skills. And very little is being done on a regular basis to develop their behavioral skills, because we believe our job is to get them employment, and after that, that organization will look after the subsequent improvement of these people. And every time I go and meet organizations, they always tell me this: Pawan, the younger generation, they are good, but they are not proactive. The younger generation, they can't communicate well. The younger generation has no sense about time management. The younger generation cannot prioritize. The younger generation gets distracted very fast. So while everything that we are talking about the younger generation in terms of the need for improvement seems to be in the area of behavioral skills, and I make no distinction between leadership skills, behavioral skills, and soft skills, because as you will see, all of them are entwined together. Very little is being done to really develop this. Now, my aim, through my experience of the last 10 years being in this field of leadership training, is to ensure that every single person, younger generation, irrespective of wherever he is in this world, should have access to the best of the behavioral skills training at the most cost-effective price. Because unless we do not provide this younger generation, irrespective of which country the person is in, irrespective of the city he is in, the world-class behavioral skills, we are really not going to tap into the potential of this younger generation, and in the long term, it will impact the world as a whole. So with that aim in mind, let me tell you what we have decided to do and what we have done. The first thing, 92% of managers, global hiring managers, believed in this fact, and I'm just kind of reiterating the point, that soft skills are a very important component of a candidate in terms of his selection into the company and his future success within the company. So 92% globally, people accept soft skill is something that people need. From an Indian context, 87% of the respondents, and this was done by the Indian Times, I've taken it from their research, which believe that a candidate with strong soft skills will certainly make a greater difference to people and the organization and the success of the organization in years to come. So with that discussion, whether soft skill is really required, put out of the way, because we now see it is really something that is important. Let us see what can we do from our side to give them the best behavioral skills that they are in the world today. Now, all of us sitting here have one thing in common, that all of us believe that we really want to make that difference to this younger generation and be a part and parcel in the success of the younger generation becoming holistic people, not only educationally qualified, but also completely whole in the sense of being able to manage themselves and also build relationship with people and take people along with them. Now, that is one common binding factor and common purpose each one of us has. And if that is so, my goal for the webinar is very simple: to share with you a unique and proven system that can support college students and young professionals develop the necessary leadership, stroke behavioral, stroke soft skills that will help him be a success both in his personal and professional life. Right? Somebody very well said, soft skills are truly much needed more than hard skills. Human resource development can be done through soft skills. Absolutely. So while an education qualification is important to get a job, and it has been again proven that 20% of the success in life is based on the IQ that we have and the certification and the academic knowledge that we gain, while 80% of our success depends on emotional intelligence which is directly related to soft skills, behavioral skills, and leadership skills. Right. So this is what I'll be trying to share with you in this next 1.5 hours or so, as to how can we provide this unique and proven system to candidates across the world. Now, why is this approach different? So while you would have seen and heard of a lot of approaches, and I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, it is so much easier now to kind of get knowledge. You can go to YouTube and all kinds of videos are there. And people see videos and they will change. Now, my experience, and I'm sure your experience is, while YouTube videos are a great source of getting some knowledge, but to change, people need a more consistent and more stronger methodology, because change doesn't happen just by seeing videos. So why is our approach different? Our approach is different because firstly, we have learned everything that we have from the world's best leadership gurus and research institutions which have been working for the last 30 to 40 years, focusing on how can they improve soft skill in certain areas. So when I got into this business of training, and I call it business because the fact is that I wanted to make a difference in this world, right? And whenever you want to make a difference in the world, there's a result outcome that you want. So when I got into this learning and development methodologies of learning, I had two choices. One is to do everything on my own, learn on my own, do research on my own. Now, I didn't have the time, money, or effort because I started when I was close to 49 years of age. So I said the best way for me to hasten my knowledge is to go and take the best of the best concepts from the world's best leadership gurus who over the last 30-40 years have been working on and researching on leadership skills. So what we have done over the last 8 years, we have connected with and we represent now in India, and we have all the knowledge and content that these great people have researched and developed. Like Marshall Goldsmith, he's the #1 executive coach in the world. John Maxwell, the #1 leadership guru for the last 8 years. Robin Sharma, we know about him. He's a person who started with writing novels, books, and now he's one of the most proficient speakers in the world and making huge changes in organizations, be it Fortune 500 or smaller organizations. We also learn from organizations like the Collective Leadership Institute, which is a German-based organization, and which for the last 20 years has been focusing on only one leadership skill, and that is the leadership skills of collaborative working and collective leadership. Then we connected with Leadership Global, which again for the last 20 years has been working on emotional intelligence and ethical intelligence. Then we connected with a neuro leadership institute known as About My Brain Institute, which is based out of Australia, which has been into the cutting edge of neuroscience. So they have been learning on the brain, how the brain is functioning, and based on their learning about the brain, they have converted that into learning solutions for people to develop themselves in leadership skills. So with all that input that we have got over the last 8 years, we have curated and customized the various programs and methodologies of delivery that I'll be talking about. The second thing is that we have done, while we gained that information, so gaining information is one, but the next is application of that information. We have been applying all our learnings. In the last 8 years, we have worked with close to 150 organizations, right from Fortune 500 to smaller organizations, and we have realized that our teaching or our learning from these great gurus needed to be customized to meet the needs of Indian corporate world, of international corporate world. But the fact is, we have tested this out in organizations, and we are now very clear as to how this can be delivered and how change can really be made to take place in people, be it the younger lot and be it even the senior most lot. So that's the next area that we have got expertise in. The third thing is we have done workshops both internationally and nationally, and we have trained tens and thousands of people across the world. So all I'm trying to tell you is all that I'm going to share with you as I go along is not theory. The theory has been applied and applied successfully. And that's the best part of it. And we have learned in this journey of application. We have discovered ourselves and discovered methodologies that have combined various different thought processes on adult learning. Also, what we did was we have done international workshops in 8 different countries. And a lot of people ask me this question: Pawan, do you find a difference in doing a workshop, let's say in Middle East, vis-a-vis Germany, vis-a-vis UAE, vis-a-vis India? And my answer is something that surprises them. I always say, I have never found a difference. There may be a cultural difference somewhere, but by and large, at the heart of it, every person, irrespective of the country he is in, and irrespective of the upbringing he has had, is a human being at heart. And all human beings desire the same. All human beings desire to keep learning. All human beings desire to keep growing. All human beings desire to know how can they get better. So with all that, we have understood how it is possible for people to make changes in behavioral skills, both by using a combination of methodologies that, again, as we go along, I'll be talking about. Now, there are 8 pillars of building these skills in college students and young professionals, which I would request you to check out whenever you are creating a program for them. And these 8 pillars, one by one, as they you keep putting them as a foundation to the growth of people, ensure that the growth is more consistent, more sticky, and people are more excited about the change they are making. So let's start with the 8 pillars. The first pillar is a very important pillar because there are 5 different adult education methodologies that have evolved over the last 100 years. And what we have been able to do, we have been able to study all these 5 different methodologies, and every workshop and every engagement that we have created, and especially the one that we have created, which we call the Professional Growth Club, takes the best of the application-based learnings from these 5 adult education methodologies. Now let's see what are they. The first adult education methodology that every one of us knows is the VARK method, that whenever you want to connect with somebody and make a difference, some people are connected to material by visually seeing it. Some hear it, or they are more focused on hearing things, so auditory. People also learn by having reading and writing. And the last is by doing things, by applying it. Now, any system that you create must have all 4 elements. So while some people have a higher engagement visually and some may have it auditory, but the moment you combine all these 4, the learnings that happen and the change that you are able to make in a person's life is going to be much more deeper. There is one thing that we must all understand about behavioral skills. See, functional skills and academic skills are something which require the IQ to be engaged, the prefrontal cortex. That is where the IQ comes in. But whenever there's a behavioral change, we need the emotions to be engaged. Because if I don't get connected emotionally, I'm not going to build in myself the required hormones in my brain which positively motivate me. And if I don't feel motivated, because change is difficult, right? If I go out of my comfort zone, why do I tend to get back to it? It is because once I get out of my comfort zone, and I do not then build in motivation and inspiration in it, after a while, I will get demotivated and get back into my comfort zone. Right? So somebody saying slide is not clear. Is it not clear for everybody? Because you will have to change it to spotlight mode. If you put it to spotlight mode, you will only see my slide and you will not see everybody. So just Ms. Kareem, just check that out. It's clear, sir? Okay. So I think what you have to do, Ms. Kareem, is to just choose a spotlight where I come in on the entire screen, right? And especially for this slide, I will also move this slightly closer, right? Great. Thank you. Thank you for saying that, right? And I've also got it closer. So VARG methodology is something that we must have incorporated in whatever methodology of learning that we want to build into our systems and into our curriculum. The second is the Honey and the Mumford learning system, which talked about that there are 4 types of learners. One is an activist. Activist learns by doing. He wants to get his hands dirty, right? So they want to experience things, do things practically, and that is how they learn. Then we have the reflector. Reflector is the person who listens, observes, thinks, and who is more detailed oriented. He wants to know the process. He wants to ensure that he has every little bit of the process given to him so that he can go from A to B to B to C to D, and he loves following processes. Then we have the theorist. Now, this person likes to know concepts, so he doesn't like to get into the detailed part of it till he understands the big picture. Right? So that's the theorist. And then we have the pragmatist. And what does the pragmatist do is he likes to have some examples to follow. So this person will normally learn by seeing others. So any system that you develop or any education methodology that you use must have a combination of all of that. And as I go and tell you about the methodology we have created, you will find that we have been able to get all elements into place. Somebody is not on mute. Just put yourself on mute because I can hear some background noise. I don't know who's not on mute, but I can certainly hear some ruffling of some background noise. Just please put yourself on mute. Whoever, I think now you're on mute. So I still hear some noise. Just please check up. Okay. Then we have the Cobb's learning cycle.
Kannadasan, sir.
Yeah, just put yourself on mute, sir. Thank you so much. Okay. Now, Cobb's learning cycle is my favorite cycle. It talks about, okay, let me ask you a question. How many of you agree that we learn from our experiences? If you agreed, just write yes on the chat box. We learn from our experiences. If you agree to the fact that we learn, yes, great, yes. So all of us say, yes, we learn from our experiences. But the fact is, we don't learn from our experiences. We learn only when we reflect on our experiences. So the Cobb's learning cycle talks about exactly this. He says you go through an experience, then you come back from an experience, you reflect on this experience. Having reflected on the experience, then you identify some core concepts as to what I did right, what did I not do right, what can I do differently. And having got those 3 things, what did I do right that I should continue doing? What did I not do that I should start doing? Or what did I do which didn't really make an impact or was counterproductive that I should stop doing? Based on that, then the person puts this back into active experimentation again and goes through the next experience. So what the person is doing is every experience is leading to a reflection, leading to some concepts, new ideas. The new ideas are being put into the new plan, and with the new way of doing things, he goes and again experiences it. And this is how the learning cycle happens every time. Driving a car, exactly this is how we did it, right? Abstract conceptualization is basically getting concepts as to what I did well, the big picture, right? What went well, what did not go well, what are some things, resources I was able to, so the big picture item, right? Because see, the good part about the brain or the bad part about the brain is either it can zoom in or zoom out. That means either you can see the big picture or you can get into details. Many times we get too much into details without being able to see the big picture. So what you do, you train your brain to say, now I'm looking at the big picture, look at the big picture, see the big parts, then get into the details. So the brain should be able to zoom out, see the big picture, zoom in to make detailed plans and put it into your new plan to go and again experience it differently. So that's what it really means, right? So this learning cycle is exactly what we had used when we had learned driving a car, driving a first bicycle, learning something new. So Cove's learning cycle is something that needs to be a part and parcel of the learning methodology that you are going to incorporate, especially when it comes to leadership skills building or soft skills building. Okay. The latest model which has come into being is the brain-based Aegis model. What does this model say? It says that anytime a person needs to learn something, the first thing is focus. The brain cannot multitask. So you sitting where you are cannot be doing 5 things and also expecting to learn from this session, because the brain cannot multitask. So Aegis model says every time a person needs to learn, he needs to first be giving attention to the learning at hand. Having given that attention, it needs to generate some aha moments in himself. That's how I can learn it. That's how I can do it. So putting a focus leads to generation of ideas, and that is where your generation of ideas come. That generation of ideas should also move you emotionally from in a positive sense or also negative sense, because I will not change unless and until I believe I need to change, unless I feel excited to change, unless I feel that if I don't change, my life will not improve. So there has to be an emotional shift. And having done that, then the person needs to go and apply and keep applying his new learning spaced out. Why spaced out? Because every time he applies it, gets back, again applies it, gets back, again applies it, a new hard wiring is being formed in the brain and a new behavior is being demonstrated. So this is the latest to say he must be focused. So when a person is doing something, just be focused on it, get some great ideas. The ideas need to connect with you emotionally. You need to then practice it out and space out your learning in a manner that you take one learning, apply it, make it a habit, then take the second learning, apply it, make it a habit, because you can't change yourself entirely in one go. The only way you and me can change is if we pick up 3 or 4 things, not more than that, apply that over a period of time till that becomes a new behavior, and then take the next lot of changes that we want to do. So these 1, 2, 3, 4 adult learning systems need to be integrated, and every element of your methodology should be incorporating all of them. And of course, then you have this blended learning. Blended learning is especially true now where we stand. Why? Because blended learning is of online workshops, and it also says, now this is very, very important. Now, this is again a question I want to ask you. If there's an online program and you have got 2 same program, one is recorded, so you can go there, see it anytime. Second, the same program is being taught to you live. Sequentially, which one would you like to do first? The live program first, followed by the recorded, or see the recorded followed by the live? So blended learning, the first is first live one, great, then recorded. Absolutely right. I think, Ratha, you are absolutely right. Why? Because unless you don't see the live one and don't get connected at a human level with people who are doing that, don't get into discussions, who aren't able to ask questions and get an answer to that, you are not going to be excited to leave that and then see that recorded version, right? So if you try to think that people will first see recorded and then come to your live, it won't ever happen. So the blended learning must happen in live online, with the same live online then available as a recorded to people, so that people can then go back to it, see the relevant parts that they want to change in, and then make the changes that they are required to make. Absolutely. So this is the blended learning part of it that we talked about. So all 5 of this, we have been able to incorporate it in the unified learning system that we have got, and we call it the Prime Plus methodology. So with that in mind, let me now go to, let me just move out slightly. Yeah. Let me go to the pillar 2. So the pillar 1 was what? All adult learning systems must be integrated, and every element of that should be in the methodology that you are training people. Now the second is pillar 2. The younger generation will not do anything unless they know the purpose behind it. It's also true with us, but more true with the younger generation. So unless you are not able to give the younger generation a pathway of learning and the need of why that pathway is, they are not going to be able to go through that and make any changes in themselves. So they should be able to see the learning journey rather than seeing it as an event. I'll again make this slightly closer for you to see. Now, the 11 professional growth plan that we talked about, so we have talked about 11 areas which are important for the younger generation. And when I talk about the younger generation, it is college to professional life transition, and people who have been in the professional life for maybe around 8 years. So the first element, and it's not sequential, right? It is one element, is positive attitude. As John Maxwell says, attitude is the main thing. So we need to have a positive attitude build up with people. And in this, there are 2 areas which we believe are important. One is self-confidence, and second is motivation. Right? So self-confidence and motivation is what? And motivating whom? Self and others. So that's where the attitudinal change needs to take place. Coming with that, the second is, how do you make your unique reputation and learn how to behave in a professional setting? See, somebody came to me and said, Pawan, I want to, kind of join your organization. I said, welcome. I said, what's your aim? He said, I want to be exactly like you after 5 years. So I just told him one thing. I said, try your best. You will never be like me after 5 years. Your aim should be to be the best version of who you are after 5 years. I cannot be like somebody, because I have my unique strengths and unique areas of development, and I should be focusing on how can I make my own unique reputation. So everyone should know his personal USP. What are his strengths? What are the areas of development? What are the strengths that how should he apply these strengths to get the best dividends? Which are the weaknesses that he should try to improve? So that's another thing that every professional must know. Also, they must know workplace civility, how to behave in a cafeteria, how to behave in a meeting, how to behave in a professional setting. A lot of these younger generation people have never been taught about it, and we feel horrified when they do something wrong, not realizing it is not their fault but our fault. The third area is they need to be, and everybody needs to be, more time efficient. And there are 2 workshops in that which we generate, which we believe are important. One is overcoming procrastination, and the second is effective time management. Then there are certain foundational communication skills that are required by people. It is telephone etiquettes and email etiquettes. Now, all of us are using mobile phones, and we believe because we are using it for a long time, we can easily use it well in a professional setting. And because of that, nobody ever gets any training on how to use the telephone and know the professional etiquettes about using a telephone. So professionally, telephone etiquettes and email etiquettes is another area that we need to improve in. This we call it the foundational communication skills. Then there's an advanced communication skills also that we believe are important, which is about influencing others. How do you influence others? When I talk to somebody, and again, John Maxwell says this beautifully. He says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So if I can't influence people, I can have a great idea in my mind, but if I can't put it across in a manner that it excites somebody else, that idea is of no use, right? So the next thing in advanced communication skills they need to do is how do they speak in a manner by using ethos and logos to be able to influence people more and be able to sell their idea. Also presentation skills. Again, a very, very weak area, and very surprisingly, even when I coach very senior leaders, I realize because they have not had any formal training or presentation skills, some of the basic concepts of presentation skills they are not aware of. Now coming to sixth part, a very important part of everybody's life, problem solving and decision making. Today, again, we have no methodology of knowing how to solve problems. We all have problems in our lives, and we are all trying our best to do it, to solve those problems. But unless we don't know how to identify the core problem, we could be solving all the other peripheral problems and not getting the results that we need. Also, decision making. Now, with that, we come to the seventh area, which we again believe is important, is getting results. At the end of it, we all are going to be paid for the results that we achieve. I could be very hardworking. I could keep doing what I'm doing and keep, working the office for 18 hours. But at the end of it, if I'm not getting the results that I want, the company is not going to be very, very excited about me. So we need to have result orientation, and that again, this is how do we build influence, right? Build influence to take people along, to collaborate with people. Because in today's life, I, with my skills, can only do that much. And I need to be able to get people to collaborate with me. And this is where building influence to get collaboration comes into play. And then it is also about managing small projects. So the basics of project management. See, unfortunately, every one of us, in every job that we do, are doing project management. We are doing projects. What's a project? A project is anything that you do which has a start date and an end date and a desired outcome to achieve. That's it. So while all of us are doing that, none of us, or very few of us, have been taught the basics of project management. So that is something, again, we believe essential part of training in building leadership skills of young professionals. As they go slightly higher, and that is why I said this is for people who have up to 7 to 10 years of experience in corporate world. That is where building teams, how do you recruit people and how do you delegate? So both these elements are something that people need to know. Also leading teams, managing difficult situations, increasing their team effectiveness. And in fact, managing difficult situations is for everybody because it has got stress management and how do you manage conflicts. Because the point of life is that if we say that we will avoid conflict, it cannot happen. Conflict is a part and parcel of life. And we need to be able to know how to manage them. So these 11 professional growth areas are the ones that we believe are essential for every young professional to start working on to get better in his own management of self, in his building of relationship with people, and thereby getting the result that we want. There are certain other bonuses that we talk about, but I won't talk about it here. So is there any questions regarding these professional skills that I talked about? Is there any other professional skill which you believe is important, which we haven't covered, or which you believe needs to be covered? Just put it on the chat box.
You can also unmute and ask the question directly.
Yes, you can do that too. Emotional intelligence. Yes. So what is emotional intelligence? All the elements that I talked about are all part of emotional intelligence. Stress management, part of emotional intelligence. If you wait till tomorrow we are going to do a workshop, right, which is going to be on emotional intelligence. There are 19 competencies that come under emotional intelligence. All the 12 of these competencies that I talked about comes under the area of emotional intelligence. And you are right. Hope your live session will be placed somewhere to watch later. Yes, I believe it is. It's going to be on a YouTube channel, which Nikit will share this with
Yes,
you.
we have our YouTube channel. All the recordings, not only this, previous recordings of sir is also available in that channel.
Yeah, and there's an emotional intelligence workshop there. You can see that also. Great. So I think that's
Sir, can I ask a question? I'm
please,
Brinda.
please. Yes, ma'am, please.
Sir, I've been like, there was like being connected with a few company CEOs, and whenever we speak, for them to talk about fresher training and all, they always come and say this that the attrition rate with the freshers is very, very high. And when I have the opportunity to go and talk to the those fresher employee, I could also see that maybe if they are not getting connected with the company's, vision or something like that, vision or whatever mission they have. So they don't even have a purpose that flows or a goal that has at least 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
So somewhere they get to keep on hopping between 1 or 2 years, they hop to another company. And I see this problem being addressed by many companies, and they are asking specifically training on these things. So could you
Right.
throw some light on this?
Great. I think that's a wonderful question.
Thank you,
In
sir.
fact, somebody asked this question, why should I train people when I know that people are going to leave my organization? So
I actually got exactly the same question from a CEO.
Yeah. So the answer to that is, if you don't train them and they don't leave, then what? If you don't train them and then they don't leave, then what? Who's going to get impacted? My organization, right? The reason why people leave organization is because they don't feel respected. The reason why people leave organization is because they feel they are not being focused upon and they are not learning anything new. One of the greatest engagement methodologies which will ensure attrition will reduce is if you start providing them training to improve themselves. Right? Because if I start feeling that the company cares for me and I'm learning in this organization,
Exactly.
I will never leave it. Now, the challenge that they have is and the second challenge that they have is the suggested interventions that various companies give to them for the younger people is very expensive. Now, I believe at that level, it has to be very cost effective. And I'll talk about it later. Can you imagine all these 22 workshops, if delivered in an organization by the in-house team whom we train, how much will it cost? It costs 100 rupees per participant for all 22 workshops. 100 rupees per participant for all 22 workshops. Now, that's the kind of support we need to give as part of the learning and development community. See, that's not where the money is, and that is not where we should focus on. Higher training, senior training is where they have the budgets. They also will pay for that, but we have to give them cost effective. One, second, time efficient. Nobody wants to and nobody can keep these people out of the office for 1 day training, right? Entire one day, they are only training. There 22 days of training. My God, are you crazy? I can't leave these people for 22 days. So that's the challenge that they have, and that's what you need to provide them, and we need to provide them, is a methodology which is time efficient, which is focused on specific competencies, not too much of theory, application based, where they take something, 90 minutes, take 4 tools, apply, get better. So it's not about giving them more, it is about giving them less, but which is relevant to them, and that will make it time efficient and cost effective. Right? So this is, I believe, the answer to it. Right? And the moment an organization, let's say I'm in an organization and I'm shown a 11-month journey of mine given to me right at the beginning. So this is your 11 month of training that you will do, or 2 years of training that you will be getting. And this is how it will pan out. It is very less likely this man will leave, because he is seeing the advantage that they are getting in this staying back into the organization. Having said that, will people still not leave? They will leave. 2 to 3 years, they will leave. And we must accept that. See, I always say that there are certain things where you should only have one mantra, and that mantra is take a deep breath and say, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go, because that you cannot really make a difference there. You cannot change that. What can be changed? Showing them a 2 to 3 year learning journey. Second, providing them time efficient, cost effective trainings, and engaging with them, getting them involved in dialogue with you. That is what will ensure that attrition will certainly come. I hope you got part of your answer.
Beautiful, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Any other question? Could we get your side? Good morning, Ateb, Dr. So-and-so, working as assistant professor. Yes, sir. Any question anybody has? Okay. Let's go to the pillar 3. The pillar 3 is the one that I talked about. Any training which is on an online platform should start with a 90-minute live workshop. So what we do is, we are providing anybody who, when we give it to a company or we train people in an organization, we give them an LMS. They become a part of the learning management system, which is a world-class learning management system that we have. All the 22 workshops that they are, and the bonuses, there are around 8 bonuses, are given to them and access for 1 year. Now we don't expect, and I've seen this happening, a lot of organizations say, Pawan, I gave them so much access, I gave them an LMS which had 3,000 workshops. You know, only 1% people saw 1% of those. So my point to them was, what was those 3,000 workshops that you gave? He said, everything under the sun. How to bake, how to cook, how to garden. So my point to him was, I said, why have you given them things which have got no value, which do not give value to him? He's confused. If you give somebody 3,000 workshops, the person doesn't even know what he's going to see. So given the ones which are relevant for his personal growth and professional growth, one. Right? So that should be available to him. More importantly, every month, make him go through one 90-minute live workshop every 15 days. So the person goes through, let's say, stress management workshop through a facilitator of ours. In 90 minutes, the entire content that is available in the LMS, and he's using that content only. That's the beauty of it, right? He's using that content. He doesn't have to prepare much. The person is going through the entire content during that 90-minute period. He's getting all the tools that are required of him. He's making his action plan for the next 15 days. And then he's going and applying it. So every blended learning must have start off with a 90-minute live workshop. That is what I talked about. Live workshops are conducting using videos and content provided in the LMS. It should be then followed by availability of that in a LMS for the person to see it. Only those areas where he wants more clarification. So those recorded workshops are only meant for clarification of doubts and also for downloading all the material that he's getting. So he gets an action planner, which we'll talk about. So that's the third pillar that I believe is important for things to be done well in terms of leadership training that we can do. Also, there has to be an engagement, pre-workshop engagement, during the workshop engagement, and the post-workshop resources must be provided. See, people are asked to come to a workshop without any preamble. So what is provided, what needs to be provided is, firstly, before he even comes to the workshop, he must get a flyer of the workshop. What are the modules? What are the benefits? What he's going to learn? So when he comes, he's coming with a prepared mind. He knows what he's looking forward to. The brain loves certainty. It hates uncertainty. If I'm sitting in this class, even not knowing what's going to pan out, after a while, I don't know what's going to come next and I will switch off. So that needs to be done. Then he needs to be provided for a manual which he can use during the workshop, and it should be interactive. And we'll talk about it. After the workshop, he then needs to be provided the power of the checklist. All the learnings must be there only in a checklist. Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? So that again, shortest period of time, those 20 points that he has learned from the workshop should be there for him to check, pick up to say, I will apply these 3. And that application then happens because he is taking those 3 and applying it in his day-to-day life. And he doesn't have to waste time again going through the entire workshop itself. So that's another part of the blended learning that I believe is important, which by and large people don't provide. The fourth is, I've seen this, most of the workshops that you see which are online are PowerPoint slides with a voiceover. I don't know about you, but I can't go beyond 5 minutes of seeing a PowerPoint slide with a voiceover. So what I believe is there should be a Netflix style of videos that need to be created, high quality, where people are talking. Like you can see here, I'm talking here. All that I'm talking is, and it's like a real class, like the person is sitting in front of me. All that I'm speaking is coming here. Also high quality images. Nobody wants to keep seeing my face every time. So in the middle, there should be relevant images coming which are to do with the content. While the voiceover should come, there should also be videos, exciting videos. And more importantly, animations, specifically in case of case studies. All our case studies are animation based. Now you can imagine how engaging can be something which is going to be like that. Every single minute, the person is suddenly seeing something new. And that is where the excitement of actually going through a workshop comes. So this is something that again we need to, I can't be just talking every time, right? There need to be other videos coming. So all that is available and should be available in any system that you are providing to this younger generation. The younger generation watches Netflix. It doesn't watch PowerPoints. So you have to provide them something that they love watching. There's a movie style kind of stuff that needs to be provided. Okay, now the fifth thing is application-based learning. Theory is passe. Less of theory, more of action. This is something that I learned from John Maxwell. After every content that he gives, he then gives you a tool so that you can apply that tool based on the learning that you have done, and the tool enables you to use this concept and apply it in your real life. So that connection of the learning, how does that get translated to my real life, your real life, is through a tool, through a format, through a technique, through an action. So the moment I start saying, okay, this is what I learned, now in your own life, write down 2 places, 2 areas where you feel stress. My area. Now I'm writing different to you, but I'm connecting to my real life. And the moment I see knowledge coming to me, which I can immediately, without thinking about it, apply to my real life, I am now connected to what I'm seeing. So we need application-based tools and processes to be provided. People love processes. People love tools. People love a method by which they can actually apply whatever they are learning immediately and not later think about what they need to do. So that is another thing that needs to be incorporated in any learning that we need to give to this younger generation. Also, one more thing that I realized, again, this is all from my experience. Whenever I went to an online workshop, I realized I was making notes after notes. Why? Because what the speaker was speaking was not given anywhere. So most of the time, my attention was not in listening and understanding. It was making notes, least I don't forget what the person had said. And that became counterproductive because I was missing out on the nuances of what the person was saying. So with that learning, what we have done is, and what I believe is very important, every single word that is spoken in the video should be as a transcript be available in the participant manual. You can see here, whatever I'm speaking here, every single word is there in the participant manual. Now the person is not bothered about missing anything. He is engrossed in only listening. I've seen this also happening when I do these workshops at times. People, while they are listening to me, also start reading. One second. They are reading along with in the manual. They are noting it down. Hey man, this is what it is. So especially in India, where at times people's grasp of English language is not very good, right? So for that, what needs to be done? Firstly, all videos should work at 120 minutes words per minute and not beyond that. Go slightly slower. But the idea is not to show how good my English is. Idea is to speak in a manner that the person can go along with his thinking, and your speaking should be in tandem. Second, whatever you speak should be there on the screen. Third, it should be also provided to him in a manual. So once he's seen the video, never again he needs to see the video. Why? Because everything is available on the screen, on the manual, and he can focus on really understanding the concepts rather than doing it. So I believe this is something completely unique, which is not available anywhere in the world, and which is a must, especially from the context of where we are, right? If even the US, you don't need all this. But we are talking about places where you and me are, where students may not be very proficient in English, right? Next, there should be a methodology by which the person can immediately after that 90 minutes, he should be able to create a personal action plan. So a weekly action planner, the checklist, and also a community. So the LMS should provide interaction. Even after the workshop is over, people in that community should be able to interact with each other like they are on a Facebook. So a private group Facebook should be part and parcel of the LMS. Because again, as we have seen, the younger generation loves to post things that they are doing. And I've seen that the moment you provide this facility in the learning management system that you have, people are writing their success stories. People are getting excited about what they are doing. Based on what I'm seeing others doing, I'm also getting excited. So we are putting in our wins, right? We are putting in our wins also there. We are putting in our questions. Hey, I tried this didn't happen. And there's an entire community of learners who are supporting each other. So create and apply your personal action plan. Should be a facility provided, and interaction among the community of learners, not during the workshop only, but post the workshop, because the actual work will only start post the workshop. We Indians love getting certificates, right? So is this a certificate course? Yes, they should be provided certificates. Not only should they be provided certificates, the certificate should be provided by an organization which has got experience of having done these workshops in real companies. Many times I've seen this. People are going to colleges saying that we are going to train your students. They are asked, have you ever trained in the corporate world or the professional world? They've never done it. Have you ever worked in a professional life? No, we haven't ever been in a corporate or a professional world. How can a person who does not have experience of having worked in the same environment ever train you? So this certificate, because it tells, so anybody, it's also about getting a job, right? At the end of it, if I show my certificate to somebody and somebody sees the certificate and sees that this certificate has been provided by a company which is also working with the best of the best companies in the world, and is connected with international associations of great teachers and organizations, then the value of the certificate will be of some sense. So that's the eighth pillar, which I believe is important for all of us to be able to give to younger professionals, for them to grow and also take advantage of whatever they are doing. Now, the power of the collective. I always love this. I love this because of the fact that every time when you combine everything, so what is it that we are giving people in this? We are giving 250 plus Netflix type videos. We are giving them 22 workshops, all stitched together in a learning journey. We are giving them 550 pages of unique manuals with all transcripts of all videos in that. And each of them has got 3 to 4 tools, right? So they are getting 150 tools are being provided to them through all these 22 workshops. Each workshop focusing on one competency, each competency being provided 3 to 4 tools, not more than that, because that is what they need, right? And 100 to 1,000 plus point checklist for implementation post the workshop. And also an online community of learners to share your learnings with and learn from each other. That's the power of the collective that needs to be provided to this younger generation. Now coming to the cost effectiveness of this. What have I told you? That the cost, so somebody, I was again going to one of these organizations, he said, Pawan, look at this. I won't name this online brand. They are selling online workshop for 500 rupees. How easy it has become, how cheap it has become to get these workshops. I said, sir, what if I told you I could give you these recorded workshops plus live workshops for 528 rupees? Sorry, 578 rupees. Do you think that will be worth its while? He said 578 rupees along with a live workshop. I said yes. So as I said, we need to make it very, very cost effective. This is one way. When our trainers are training, if we train your faculty and your faculty can then train inside, the cost per person for all 22 workshops will come to almost 100 rupees. That's all, nothing more. Right? So that is again something that needs to be provided. It's not about making money here. It is to ensure that every young professional and young person is provided all that he needs to make his life a success. And that is what we have been aiming to do all this time with us. So summary, what do college students and young professionals need? I'll just move this slightly closer for you to see. Yeah, they want anywhere, anytime access. They want multiple modes of delivery. So you need live delivery also. You need the other kind of delivery, recorded. You need multiple modes of access. They should be able to take it on a phone. They should be able to take it on laptop. They should be able to take it on the iPad. There should be a focused learning of one competency at a time. Don't mix up too many things. 3 to 4 bite-sized, time-efficient modules. So in 3 to 4 hours, they are finished with recorded as well as live training. Highly experiential, proven methodology should be there. Application-based 3 to 4 tools per workshop. They should be able to create individual action plans for themselves so that they can connect it with their personal lives and not thinking as to what can I do after this knowledge that I've got. It should enable learners of all types of learners, be it a kinesthetic, be it a auditory, be it a person who goes through experiences and learn. All these kinds of learners should have methodologies provided to them by which they can learn. Immediate feedback of learning. That is what, again, we have a quiz which immediately provides them knowledge as to how much they have been able to. And this is not to check their knowledge. It is to have a quick revision of what they have learned. What do they need to again go back to in case they have missed out something. That's again something that we need to do. They need to be provided transcripts in the participant manuals. They need to be provided with a customized monthly learning path. It needs to be cost effective with consistent quality. recorded facilitator training video should be there, and monthly live training should be there. So this is the kind of training that is required by our young professionals today. And my humble request to you is that whenever you are providing something or you are evaluating such like programs for your college or for your young professionals, use this as a checklist. Use it as a checklist to check whether all these facilities are being provided. We already have it with us. You can also get back to us. I'll just show you a little video also now on some portions of the workshops that we do. So I'll just share my screen with you.
सर आपको प्ले करना पड़ेगा.
प्ले नहीं हुआ?
प्ले नहीं हुआ सर.
मैं तो प्ले कर दिया. You can't see my screen.
No, I am able to see your screen, sir. But only thing is you have to play the slide, sir.
I played once again. I'll go back. Let me again reshare one second. Here I present now. Yes, I present my window. That's right. To choose my slide. That's okay. I share. You can see the sharing?
No, sir. Yeah, now it is sharing.
Yeah, so it takes, I think, a couple of seconds. Because of the. Now I'm going to play. Right? Just wait for a few seconds, then let me know.
Sure, sir.
Is it playing now?
No, sir.
Not playing?
Not playing, sir.
Oh, so let me not do this one. Then let me go to plan B.
Sir, I think enable editing ऊपर option आता है उसमें. You need to click on that.
So what I will do is I'll play it here only.
संजय सर आपका म्यूट कर दीजिए प्लीज.
Now it's playing?
Now it's okay, sir.
Yeah.
I hope participants are able to see.
Yeah, we should. You can make it.
सर आप वीडियो प्ले कर रहे हो क्या?
हाँ, प्ले हो रहा है?
नहीं, मैं ये बोल रही हूँ अगर आप वीडियो प्ले कर रहे हैं तो आवाज क्लियर नहीं है.
ये आवाज की कोई जरूरत नहीं है.
Okay.
There is no video, no. There is only music. Okay, so that is fundamentally what I wanted to share with you. Any questions, I would love to hear from you on any of this topic or any other topic which is to do with how do we build leadership skills in college students and young professionals.
Participants can unmute themselves and ask the question directly, or you can drop the message in the chat box.
Any question anybody has? Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yes,
are you saying that after going the courses in full, you can convert a donkey into a horse?
that's a very good question. That's a very good question. See, what you are asking is a fundamental question of nature versus nurture, right? So there are two parts to learning. One is what nature has bestowed on people, right? Now, if I am a donkey, let's say, nature has given me an IQ of a donkey, let's say. Can I make him a horse? The answer is no. But can I make him better than what he is? Or can he get better than what he is? The answer is yes. Can you hear me? Oh, I think you're right. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Here,
Okay,
yes, sir.
okay.
I'm just
Yeah.
asking about some of the genetic predisposition which affects people not able to come over even after learning through various teaching courses.
You're right. Absolutely. See, you need a certain level of IQ. You need IQ close to 100, 110 odd, right? To be able to develop yourself further and live a professional life which is relatively successful and which can provide a person sufficient amount of happiness. But if there is a genetical defect, you cannot make a difference. If the IQ is too low, you really cannot make a difference. So nature has to give me the basics. But once a basic is there, I can nurture the person to move him to the next level.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a good question. Nature is always a question, nature versus nurture.
Sir, yeah. Sir, there is a question in a chat box. Shall I read it out
Yes.
for you, sir?
Some students, some students want to go ahead by doing something, but other students demoralize them and influence them not to do it. And that, what should we do? See, that's always the case. You will always find around 20% people being early adopters. I think the light has gone here. Just let me just check. Just give me 1 second, please.
No issues, sir.
या हमारी तो लाइट नहीं थी ना सर सभी की थी हाँ बड़े आज टाइम हाँ मैं देख रहा हूँ इधर पहले की Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we are able to hear you.
Sorry, I was muted. How did I mute myself? Okay.
No, I have muted, sir.
Okay. So, as I said, that 20% people will be early adopters. Now, these 20%, once they are part of a community and they start sharing their experiences, the trainer's responsibility is to appreciate it and tell others about it and engage with them. Now, when these 20% people are doing something and then others are watching them, right? 60% are people who are fence sitters. Then once they see that some person is getting results, they will, and the trainer or the professor or the faculty is appreciating it. And I'm not focusing on people who are not doing it. I'm only focusing on people who are doing well. And when I start appreciating it and these people start seeing the changes in these people, then these fence sitters start moving towards the other side. And 20% will never ever do anything anyway. So forget about those, because 80%, I would say 60% also, if you can make a difference too, that is good enough. Right? So I think that's the way to go about it. And yeah, focus on the people who are doing well, appreciate that. I always give this example that, catch people doing something right than catching them doing something wrong. As an example, let's say I have a team of 5, and out of these 5, 2 come to office on time every day, but 3 don't. How would we normally handle the situation? That we will call these 3 people and, tell them, what the hell, you don't come on time, this is not done, and you next time I will be watching you. And you find that it is not really making too much of a difference. A better way of doing this is that when all 5 of them are there, walk up to the 2 who come on time and appreciate them and say, wow, man, Rakesh, you are fantastic. Rakesh and Riaz, you both are amazing people here. Every time I come to office, I see you on time. There's no doubt that you will always be successful in life. And don't even look at the other 3. And the moment you walk away, you will find that the other 3 will then are more likely to start demonstrating the behaviors which are being appreciated. So I think that's what you need to do, appreciate people for their behaviors and hope that the others then see this appreciation and see the changes that are happening. And you will find a larger percentage of college students, coming to the positive side than being on the negative side. Yeah, positive, absolutely. Great. Any other question? You can unmute yourself. You can type whatever. I can see your chat also. Thank you, Ms. Kareem. So if there's no question, I think, Nikhil, let's take a break for around 15 minutes or so. And then
Sure, sir.
Workshop. So next workshop is all about leading through a crisis. So we all are going through a crisis today. And how do we convert an adversity into advantage? So this workshop, I banked upon the content of my dear friend John Maxwell. And the entire content has been created out of a large amount of interaction that we have with him. I'm being mentored by him for the last 10 years now. And he's helped me greatly in understanding what leadership is all about and delivering world-class presentations and lectures and interventions in India and abroad. So let's connect at around 10:40. It's 10:38, so maybe...
Sir, it's 10:35.
Yeah,
Shall we
okay.
start after 5 minutes, sir? 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
That
10
is
minutes.
10:45.
Yeah, we can start at 10:45. Only I'm wondering that if people are coming based on 11 o'clock, they will miss out. Do you think some people may come based on that 11 o'clock thing?
No, sir. Participants are joining in between, so let them join, sir.
Okay. So just
I would
you
request
can
all the participants.
Yeah, so I think you can also put something on the screen or in the chat saying anybody who's joining now, we are restarting at let's say 10:50 or so.
Sure, sir. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Participants are requested not to leave the session. You can go and have a tea break or a break. We will again meet after 10 minutes. That is 10:45.